everyone, and welcome to Write, Learn and Earn, where you're going to learn all of the little tricks of the trade from authors who have walked the journey. So as authors, one of the things that we need to do is we need to grow our newsletter database. Why? Because we want to have control over what communication goes out to our readers, and we want to take ownership of those readers, of our audience. And sadly, most of the book places that we sell our books at, or the bookstores or online bookstores, are not going to give us that information because it's their customers. So today I've got with me a South African author, Fidel, and I would love to introduce you to him and let you know a little bit about what he writes. But he has built up his newsletter database using a product called BookFunnel. So Fidel, welcome to the channel. I know for those people who are watching, watch to the end, there will be a free giveaway, which we'll tell you about near the end. Fidel, thank you very much for being on the channel. Tell us a little bit about yourself, what it is that you do and why you started writing.
I am originally I'm from Kenya. I've been in South Africa now for like 16 years and actually 17 years, no, 16, sorry, I've lost track of time. It's been a long time. And I work professionally as a screenwriter in the TV industry. So I write scripts for TV dramas and soapies. And I started writing novels. I switched over to novels because they're an end product, they're a finished product. In the TV industry and the film industry, once you finish a screenplay, it's not a complete product, and there's still a lot of hoops that you have to jump through, and a lot of doors you have to knock on, gatekeepers you have to get through. It's like, and that's not to say that they don't exist in the book publishing industry. You still have gatekeepers and whatnot in the form of agents and publishers, but it's nothing compared to what you'd experience in the TV and film world. Because in the TV and film world, you're asking people for massive investments, massive financial investments to realize your story on screen. And so, of course, the fortifications around the castle surrounding that money are going to be much, much higher and much harder to scale. So books represented a different, it just felt more satisfying that, you know, you can write something and you can push it out to an audience and you can start to get a kind of reaction, people writing back saying, hey, I liked this, or hey, I didn't like that. And it has, yeah, it was a different avenue that was more immediately satisfying, I would say. And it's also, there's a sense of control to it, a greater sense of control than in the TV and film world. So that's why I started writing novels.
Now, I have started reading one of your novels. I haven't finished it, but I'm actually finding it quite fascinating because it's got a little bit of old world culture, but there's also a bit of sci-fi in it. And I'm finding it very, very interesting, what I've read so far. Tell us a little bit about this book.
So the book is called Man of Stone and Shadow. And it's based on an ancient myth from East Africa. In East Africa, one of the biggest tribes in East Africa are called the Luo people. And they're found in Kenya, parts of Uganda, parts of Tanzania. And I'm not sure if they might be in Sudan. Anyway, I'm not sure. But it's a big ethnic group. And one of the most famous myths is about this kind of hero who had he was indestructible basically, but his shadow was mortal. So the way to kill him was by sort of attacking his shadow. And it's a very simple story, kind of Samson and Delilah type of story, because eventually his downfall is through a woman. But I thought to myself, wouldn't it be interesting? As I was reading it, I just had so many questions, and I was asking myself, but what about this, and what about that, and what about this, and what about that? Then eventually I had this what if this story happened like very many years in the future, and it was like his great grandson who got this ability, and how would it play out? So I really wanted to expand that myth, because I find that personally, I remember when I was growing up as a kid, I used to be exposed to a lot of African mythology, and I'd find them in books, in school books that my parents would buy for me. I'd see them in bookshops. And Now, both in South Africa and in Kenya, whenever I visit, I've just found that that's not the case anymore. Like, kids are not reading African mythology anymore. And I've got nothing against the mythological traditions of the rest of the world, whether it's Norse mythology or Chinese mythology or whatever. It's fantastic. But I just feel that it was, I just thought it was sad that they're kind of forgetting the storytelling culture that's already here in the continent, and all of these fantastic stories and fantastic characters and fantastic myths are kind of being forgotten. So I thought to myself, okay, maybe that's my soapbox, as it were. I'll stand on this soapbox and say, hey guys, don't forget that a fantastic and amazing mythical tradition that exists on the continent. Let's bring them back, let's reboot them, let's dust them off, let's retell these stories. So that's my little mission.
I love that. There was a little quirky thing in the book where his adopted parents go to the university that he's going to study at, and then they found out that the father had outstanding books from the library from, I don't know how many years. And then the son says, but didn't they like automatically get like taken off your device? And he's like, no, they're actually physical books. I thought that was very quirky. I love that. It just shows that like whole big cultural change of physical books versus electronic books. But Fidel, you've tried to build up a newsletter database using BookFunnel, and that's really what we want to chat to our audience about today, so that they can find out the different tools that authors are using to grow their audience. Tell us a little bit about your experience of BookFunnel, and what are the key components that you use, and that what you attribute your success to on those platforms.
The main thing about BookFunnel is BookFunnel only does one very specific thing. It's super hyper-focused. BookFunnel is hyper-focused on grabbing people's email addresses in exchange for books. So you give them books, either excerpts or full books for free, and they give you their email addresses. And it's all about cross promotions to get email addresses, or secondarily, to promote sales. So you're actually selling the books at reduced rates, 99 cents, $1, whatever. And it's really zoned in on those two things. So it doesn't think about, it doesn't look at trying to get reviews or anything else like that. It's just on either you're building a newsletter or you're trying to sell books, and that's it. It's hyper focused. And the thing which I really like about BookFunnel is that, as opposed from it being super focused, is also that it's got very many authors. I don't know what the author database is sitting at now, but it's a lot of authors on there. And so that makes it much easier to tap into people's email databases, because the barriers to entry are kind of reduced. You'll always find, so for instance, you've got your heavy hitters. You've got those guys who've got email newsletters with 10,000 plus people, and then they say, listen, I'm only going to cross promote with people whose email databases are 10,000 or more, or 8,000 or 5,000. So you've got those guys, and they're few and far between actually. Most people would just say, listen, my database is sitting at 2,000 or 3,000, and I'm happy with anyone who's got 500 or more. And then you've also got the other people who are just starting out, and then they say, all right, listen, I only have 1,000. So even if you've got one person on your email database, that's fine. You can join, you can get in there. And so that's what I found to be really interesting about BookFunnel, is there's a tier for everyone. You've got your really big guys, and then you've got your guys who are sort of just starting out, and maybe their email database is sitting at 30 or 20. You'll be able to, even with 20 or 30, you'll be able to start somewhere and keep going. And what I found was the most useful thing about BookFunnel was what you have to be regular. Like the regularity is the main thing in terms of sending out newsletters. And that's what I found really helped me. Because, so for instance, as an author, to be honest, I don't like sending out newsletters to people. I'm like, look, I don't, to be honest, okay, a moment of honesty, I don't appreciate getting newsletters. I use this thing called Unroll Me, which like combines all the newsletters that you get in your inbox, and it tells you, okay, you can unsubscribe from all of them in one click. I use it regularly. I don't like getting newsletters. And so I put myself, I did that whole like golden rule, do unto others as you want them to do unto you. And I'm like, okay, I don't really enjoy getting newsletters from people. And okay, so, but I want to send newsletters to people. What would I be interested in? What kind of newsletter would I get? Would I be interested in getting? And so I started crafting newsletters according to how I would like a newsletter to be. So my newsletters basically have like 2 lines of text. They say free sci-fi novels, number 1, available for the next 48 hours at this link. Finished. Nothing else. No, hi guys. Hey, Valentine's Day is coming around. What do you have planned? None of that. It's like, it just says free romance books from 38 authors. Click this link. It expires in 72 hours. That's it. Like nothing else. And BookFunnel, I found, was really helpful in that respect, because once you join a promo, if you don't post, it affects your reputation, which means that you've got this kind of score, which shows how many times people click the links that you sent out. So it's a measure of how much you shared those links. And if your reputation score falls below a certain threshold, people won't accept you into their promos anymore. So it's a good way of getting a nice kick in the backside. Once you join a promo, you have to share it. And that helped me overcome my dislike for writing newsletters and sending out newsletters. And so I pared it down to the bare minimum. Hey, get a free book, click here, bye-bye, finished, end of story.
We are so very different when it comes to that. I didn't like the idea of sending out newsletters, primarily because I was like, what the heck am I going to put in them?
No.
But I've actually developed a formula for myself, and I stick to that formula like clockwork. So my first section is something that's happened in my life in that week. So I do a newsletter every single week. And I put something that's happened in my life, or it's usually a motivational kind of thing. So, I put something like this past week: do you ever have people in your life that just won't learn the lesson? So they tend to repeat our mistakes over and over. So basically, the first section of something that's happened in my life, and then I link it up to one of my characters. So I'll say, like this character, these kinds of things that happened to them, and they're also struggling to learn the lesson. Then I will do what am I working on now? So whether I'm going to be editing, or I'm doing promotions, or I've been in a photo shoot or whatever, I'll put it down there. And then I've got an ask an author. So there's an article that I found that's got 50 questions that you can ask an author. So I go through those questions, and each week I'll post something like that. And then I've got a picture about where in the world am I? So because I write medieval fantasy, I'll find a castle, a medieval castle somewhere in the world, and I'll put a picture of it and a little fact about it. And then I have my cross promos that I've built through Story Origins. I'll always put 1 or 2 other authors, and then I'll either do a Kindle Unlimited swap, or I will do a newsletter swap. And I'm actually finding it quite interesting, because over December, I posted something about Christmas, and I said, what is it that our family usually does over Christmas? And then I asked a question. I said, what are you doing for Christmas? Well, one lady responded to me, and eventually she sent me her family recipe book that her granny and all kinds of family members have just been adding to. It was a Word document, and I'm like, wow, that's amazing. Wow. I got this special little thing from this lady. And then some guy contacted me, says, what is gammon? So I sent him a link from the BBC Good Food channel to show what gammon is, because that's something that we would traditionally have over Christmas. So I found that there actually are people that are quietly reading your newsletter and not saying anything until a day comes that you write something that is of interest to them, that will engage them. So that I found very interesting, because it's just these people that who knew that they're actually even reading it. I mean, I'm just like plodding along, because the system that I use also requires us to do regular newsletters, and we also get we have to archive the newsletter so people can see if you actually did include their book in it, and it gives us stats on how many links went to that author from your newsletter, and how many clicks went from their newsletter to your different things that you posted on. So I do find that the structure is really nice. I usually get an email on the day to say, hey, Kim, remember you've got to send your newsletter out today. And in most days I'm
cool.
organized, but some days I'm like, oh, the newsletter, I've got to send it out. So it has helped me get into a discipline of making sure that I'm regular in my communication with people. And some people, they just really want to know who you are. You know, who's Fidel? Why is he writing this? You know, that story that you told me about, that you read so much stuff when you were a kid and no one's telling those stories anymore, that would be interesting. That would be very interesting to me if I was on your newsletter. Because, you know, what you could do is, if you wanted to expand it a little bit, you could sit down one afternoon and write a whole bunch of things, and like month one say, okay, I'm going to chat to you a little bit about the history of this mythological creature or person or whatever, and then the next week carry on. And so when people start getting engaged in those characters, in those stories, then they're going to be more likely to read your book, because they're like, oh, this is marrying the modern world with this little bit of slice of history. So I would like to see something like that.
Yeah, that's a cool idea. That's a cool idea. Yeah.
So how many people have you built up from scratch using these kinds of tools?
At the moment, I'm sitting on about 1.5, 1.6. And that's been over just I started in 2019. I started in 2019, so that's taken me about 2 years. 2 years to get to like 1.5, 1.6.
Okay, excellent. And I believe that they've got a tiered approach. So there's different versions that you can purchase. Which one are you working with at the moment?
The cheapest. Yeah, I mean, I looked at the other versions, and it basically, the other versions are for, I think the main difference was like how many downloads is allowed. So on the cheapest, basically, which means how many email addresses you can get or how many sales you can make. The cheapest one is 5,000 a month, and for that I'm way happy. So that suits me fine, because I mean my database at the moment is sitting at like 1,500. But if I was one of those big boys with, you know, big girls with 40, 50,000 people, then I'd go for those higher tiers for you know, bigger newsletter email databases. Yeah.
Now, when you get your emails, your subscribers, do you have to manually put them into your database, or is it automated?
So it's automated, but only with certain email service providers. So if you use MailerLite, MailChimp, I think Sendinblue, you know, the kind of popular ones, it sort of.
Okay, we're just struggling a little bit with signal over here. So Fidel's speaking to us about the automation, on how it will link into your mail service provider. And I find that that's incredibly helpful. It's something that I use on a regular basis, because I can just forget about it. I can integrate my my personal funneling that I use to whatever my mail server is, and it just makes sense to do it that way because then I can focus on writing and the software does it all for me. Okay, so we lost Fidel, but he's given us a really great insights in terms of book funnel. And I know that he has got a link. If you go down into the description area of the video, you will find the link to grab a copy of Fidel's book. I'm thoroughly enjoying what I'm reading so far. And so I just want to say a big thank you to Fidel for signing in with us and sharing some information with us on how he has grown his database using BookFunnel. If you are interested in any other topics, please pop it into the comments and remember to subscribe to the channel, and that way you can get to find out new things that are happening on the Write, Learn and Earn channel. Thanks for tuning in and bye for now.